host and master of ceremonies, Nathan Cassar.
Well, welcome to the Just As Planned TV and podcast show, where we bring wedding experts to your home to provide you with insider tips and knowledge to help make your special day go just as planned. Now, I'm your host and professional wedding MC, Nathan Cassar, and I am today chatting all things hair with the stunning Danielle Sainty, owner of Deelush Hair. Now, Danielle is a Sydney-based freelance hairstylist with over 20 years of experience creating beautiful, effortless bridal hair. Her bohemian style has been featured in top wedding publications like Hooray Magazine, Hooray Magazine, and Modern Wedding, and blogged, doesn't stop there, by Style Me Pretty, Bride-to-Be, and Polka Dot Bride. That is quite the catalogue. Now, but don't let her impressive portfolio intimidate you. Danielle is a warm, friendly person who knows how to make her clients feel relaxed and pampered on their big day. She's seen it all, from the calmest pre-wedding mornings to the craziest, and she knows how to handle every situation with grace and professionalism. Now, today, Danielle will be sharing her expert tips on how to have the best morning on the day of your wedding, which is really important. That's how you start it all off. From managing hair and making makeup preps to email etiquette with hair and makeup artists. She'll also be debunking common myths about hairstyling on your wedding day, such as the idea that dirty hair is better, that hair waves are quicker and cheaper, and whether you should bring your mum to the hairdryer. All things that I have absolutely no idea about, and I'm so excited to learn more about myself. So no matter if you're a bride-to-be looking for the perfect hairstylist or just someone who loves all things wedding hair, you won't want to miss this episode. So get ready to be inspired and informed by the one and the only Danielle Sainty. Danielle, D, I should say,
Hi.
as you like to, as you much prefer. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to have you here. Honestly, I've really been looking forward to this episode for a lot of reasons. One, because we worked together very recently for Gabby and George's wedding, literally 30 days ago. It was the 5th of March.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was a great wedding. And of course, we're just talking about Gabby and how she was a wonderful bride, one of the easiest going people on the planet. And her hair just looked absolutely stunning. Like, I truly mean it. I remember it vividly. And I was just saying, like, your work speaks for itself. But also been looking forward to this because, to be honest, when I go to my barber, I just tell him I want the same thing I did last 6 weeks, 4 weeks, whenever I could afford to go back to the barber. So you're going to be telling me a whole bunch of things for today. What I would love to start off with is finding out sort of, look, let's be honest. You're there at the very beginning of the day for a lot of brides out there. And so you get to see their snapshot. You know, they're all waking up at 4, 5 o'clock to see you, 6 o'clock perhaps if they get a sleep in. And so you get to see them at a very different time than when I get to see them towards the ceremony reception. So tell me about first, what is your hot take on a way that a bride can get ready so that they're ready and focused for what they know is going to be a really early start?
Yeah. Look, I'm with them early in the morning, so I try to come in, with my best smile on and be like, hey guys, let's get going. And they're just like, what? But I always say to brides, when you're getting ready for your wedding day, it's a bit of a marathon, not a race. So, when you get up in the morning, you don't have to jump up and try and do a million different things. Just get up and have breakfast and a tea and a coffee, and hair and makeup will just kind of get started. So, you don't have to eat before you get in my chair. You can eat while you're in my chair getting your hair done. And so I always try to make sure they're really comfortable and relaxed. And, if they still want to be in their pajamas, do all that. Just be really comfortable and, just ease into it. You don't have to spring out of bed and straight into it. Otherwise, it'll be a really long day for them. So, that's kind of my hot tip is just, it's gentle. It's not a, come on, guys, let's get going. It's, let's just get up and slowly kind of get into the day and let the excitement build,
And how important is making sure that your timings, your run sheet, so to speak, for the whole morning activities is set in advance?
Yeah.
And do you play a part in that? Are you able to provide assistance for them in that?
Yeah, I do. So I always say to brides, the photographer is like my number one person that I tend to work around on the day. So, I've had brides saying, "Oh, I'll just be ready 30 minutes before I leave." I'm like, no, 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 that's not happening. So when I always say to them, tell me what time your photographer is arriving, because they'll shoot a few detail shots, but then they're going to want to start getting shots of you guys. And it can be anywhere about an hour prior to departure or sometimes a little bit earlier than that. But that's really where my time kind of cuts off there. So, and then, I'll just wait around till they get dressed and pop the veil and last details in. But yeah, I always say to brides, your photographer timings are really important because you've paid them to come in and do their job. And that's when I got to hand over, the reins to them and they've got to be ready to go. So I always say to brides, I allow about an hour per person. Sometimes dependent on different things. So that kind of gives you a bit of an idea of a start time. So, find out what time the photographer wants you to be ready by, and everything just kind of works back from that. And yeah, it's kind of how I work my timings.
I love that, and I think it's a great thing too. And I tell my brides and grooms as well when it comes to anything pre-ceremony, particularly if it's an off-site ceremony. I say, look, the photographers, the videographers, it's kind of their show up until that point, and so it's absolutely critical that they follow along with that. So it's great advice. Curious because I've worked with different sizes of bridal parties, right? I work with, like, just say a best man and a maid of honor, and then I've worked with, I think I've got a wedding coming up where there's like 8 on either side. It's going to be a great entrance, but I can only imagine the operation that it would take to get all those people. So how do you personally, what can they expect if they're looking at a much larger bridal group?
Yeah. So, look, the largest group I've done by myself is up to 10 people. And that wasn't that long ago, and it was a lot. I feel like because I'm in peak season at the moment, I'm actually running about half an hour ahead most days now, which is brilliant, but it is a lot. It was a very early start, and we had the time, as long as the time is allocated. But I do recommend for brides, if they're going over kind of 7 to 8 people, I might bring a junior assistant with me then. That way they kind of do the hair prep for me, and then that just leaves me to do the rest. So it does cut that time down. So I think they're like 30 minutes in one chair and 30 minutes in the other, and there's 2 of us going at the same time. So yeah, I think if you're with a large bridal group, just consider having, 2 makeup artists and 2 hairdressers, because otherwise you're going to start at like 4 a.m. and if your reception's not till 6, it's a really long day. So
it really is, and I hear it all the time. They say, "Oh, I'm so tired," and of course, like, I will, bolster them up, and they'll get a second win, and everything's great. But it's sort of, I do feel it in that moment where I can see them, even sometimes, unfortunately, like just before they're about to go down the aisle at an on-site ceremony, and there's this kind of like, oh, and of course, it all hits up. The spirit hits them again. But I think a little bit of extra planning, a little bit more sort of thought into it, particularly if you are getting a bigger group, would help. But it's great that there are people like yourself who are able to provide the extra provisions of people and so forth. Speaking of sort of, I've been curious actually, because a lot of weddings that I've been doing, so I'd say maybe it's about 50-50, where there are 50-50 that work with someone like yourself who can offer both hair and makeup, and then there are about the other half who will split that down the line and find a makeup artist and find a hairstylist. Is it better to find someone who does them all, or is there any advantage, disadvantage, with pros and cons?
A little bit. So I only just do hair. I don't do makeup at all. So I just work with makeup artists that I would, recommend, or whoever they have. Yes, I've got ladies that I've worked with and trained who do hair and makeup. And I think if you're with a smaller bridal party, it works really well. So if you've only got like maybe 3-4 people, that's double the services. So that's essentially like 6 to 8 people that are getting hair and like for the one person. So, again, it's that time thing. You got to allow that it might be over an hour per person. So I think for very small groups, having one person might work really well, because again, it just keeps the vibe really soft and gentle in the morning. And then, if you're having really big bridal parties, just to save that hassle, I think that's when you look at having double artists for each side. But I find like most brides, if you've got 4 or 5 people, it's nice to have a hair and a makeup artist, and that way you're kind of flowing between the two. And and my job with the makeup artist is we kind of keep the mood really light and bantering, like if you can see they're getting nervous, you're like, oh, wow, like it looks so good outside. And they're like, oh, okay. And, you know, so sometimes I've got to crack a joke and just relax them. Or sometimes I'm just like, you need to eat, you need to drink, you need to eat, and you need to drink. Like, so yeah, sometimes we're like acting like little mums to them. And sometimes we're, you know, just kind of their little cheer squad and getting them through that morning. So I think it's good to have sometimes a hair and a makeup artist, because we can really, you know, banter off each other. And I find they're the best mornings for the bridal party, because then they feel like it's fun and they're relaxed, and then they're actually getting into it, you know. So
I love it. That's so good. And yeah, you are. I love that there's this carry through of the vibe that's created from the very morning, and then, you know, they get into their celebrant, and the photography team's a vibe too, and of course they meet me, and then I'm obviously carrying the rest of the vibe throughout with the DJ and everything else. So it's great that, you know, it all starts at the very beginning, and it's important to obviously find the right people who hit that vibe, because you're the first person, that their first face they're seeing in the morning. It's not their friends and family, and I'm the last face they're seeing at the end of the night. So it's very important. Speaking sort of taking it even one step or a couple of steps back away from the day itself now. So, you know, before obviously before we've even they're there at the day and you've been booked and everything, they have to book you. So speaking of that, in terms of email etiquette and communication with makeup artists and hairstylists, what are your sort of hot takes on it, and like do's, don'ts, and things maybe you've seen in the past that you just hope that people don't do anymore, and things that you love when you get a great email coming in?
Yeah. I mean, I'm very good at like kind of reading through the emails now and getting a bit of a feel for it. So I do have a bit of a questionnaire. You know, I like to get, you know, just not just the date and the venue, but, you know, who their photographer is. Do they have a makeup artist? So it gives me a bit of an idea of their vibe, and obviously location and stuff. So then I know what they're looking for and what their expectations might be. And then I always kind of come back with them with the information, and I always add in, you know, go through and look at my style and make sure that my style suits you. So I think when you're looking for a hair and makeup artist, you know, really thoroughly look at their work, because that's their work and that's what they're going to produce the best. So, you know, if you're looking for someone who does beautiful, gentle, soft waves, or you want something really tight and polished, they're kind of what's going to guide you to see what they actually already do. And then in etiquette of email, I always say, you know, to people, and it's a bit of a hot one, you know, don't price negotiate, because if you kind of say to someone, hey, if I had 12 people in, will that make it cheaper? It's like, essentially, I'm working harder and longer.
Yeah,
I'd rather just do the less group.
We're not a bulk meat at Woolworths, you know, like
exactly. I'm actually the service, so it means I'll be working harder and longer. So I always just say, you know, don't. I think with hair and makeup, you can't really price negotiate with this. It's like we have a very set kind of fee, and I feel like most of us are very much on par. Yes, there's definitely different grades, because I think you know, depending on the artist and how well they are, they might charge really high. And that's because that's what they do and they're amazing at it. So I think, when you kind of come at an artist, that's what their price is, you know. So kind of haggling them for a price will probably not put you in our good books. We'll probably just go, no.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing that because I've had this conversation in a number of other episodes as well about the value of sort of understanding as a vendor. We are, you know, we're service operators, we're passionate, you know, we should be, you know, we care. You haven't come into our orbit already without having seen some level of like desire on our part to do a good service for you. And so it's like, we're not there to gouge, we're there to ensure that what we are offering and putting out to the universe as a service is going to be exactly your experience on the day. And just like anything else, that does cost, but we're going to be giving it back on the day. It's just obviously it's harder to see, you know, even though you may do a trial or something like, of course, it's what you would probably do, but like even with that, it's there's the intangibilities are there. You've just got to sort of trust us, and
Yeah, that's it. And like when I book a wedding, I just book one wedding per date. I never do doubles. It's just one bride per date. And, you know, it's not even just the wedding date, it's the correspondence leading up to the wedding. You know, so from when they book me through to the hair trial, through to after the hair trial, like I'm on call for those brides. They can email me anytime, any questions. You know, like my bride's coming over the next month might email me, you know, what about this? What about that? I'm like, yep. So, you know, you're also paying for that person prior to the day. So yes, I come on the day and I do the physical work and that's the price for the day. But it's also my time that I've dedicated to them leading up to it. And I make sure I do that for every bride. I don't want any bride to ever walk away and feel like, oh, I couldn't get a hold of her. And, she took weeks to email me back. And, I try at the worst a few days. This time of the year, it's like when it's a weekend, I'm like, I'm sorry, guys, I'm back on emails on Monday. But, I try to be very available. And if it's an urgent thing, like I will, and they need to call me or text me, then I respond to that as soon as I can. So, I think it's
so
like
true.
you bring that value on it.
Absolutely. You are paying for that as well. And that's the thing, again, it's those intangibilities that you don't see until you do offer that trust, put the deposit down, and then we are able to sort of establish that relationship moving forward. And then you have like another cheerleader in your camp, it's this every little step, piece of the puzzle is like, yeah, we got this. It's going to be a great day. And we know, obviously, having done, most of the time it's their first time. And even if it isn't, it's, it's still a big day. And so we're there to really facilitate and guide them through that process. And, we kind of do need to eat in between that time leading up to their wedding as well. So.
I do try. I do need to eat.
Just like you're telling them to eat on the day.
Just like me. I'm like, you need to eat because I'm going to eat.
Now, this is something that I was really, really excited to talk to you about. Of course, everything has been amazing so far, but you mentioned that you want to dispel some myths, and I love this because none of this stuff is all very foreign to me in the whole process. So I would love to learn about sort of you just going ahead and myth busting some things that may be out there that you've heard out there. So take it away.
Oh, okay. So dirty hair, that's like the number one thing. Dirty hair does not hold styles well. It is dirty and it will look dirty. So I always tell the bridal parties, I give them very kind of clear hair washing instructions the night before, day before, wash it, dry it, have it ready to go, nice and fresh. But yeah, dirty hair does not hold a wave really well. So if you haven't washed it in a week, it's probably going to look like that. So that's definitely like number one. I also get asked, like, does hair waves are a lot quicker? So, I should be able to do everyone in 20 minutes. And I'm like, hair waves take longer than an updo. So because you got to like prep the hair, put all the product in, then I got to curl it, then I might have to set it. So, if I'm doing a Hollywood wave, I can allow up to an hour and 15 minutes per person for that. And then if you're adding in the hair extensions, I always say it's an extra 15 minutes because it just takes extra time. So they're definitely like my number two myths that I hear a lot. And yeah, that's when they start to go, well, so should that be cheaper? I'm like, So they're the main two. Yeah.
What about bringing your parents along to, particularly mum or grandma, to the trial?
To the hair trial. Yeah. So I do tell my brides hair trials are strictly bride only. And the reason is, like, once upon a time when I first started out, I was like, oh yeah, anyone can come, not a problem. The problem is it's a little bit like when you're wedding dress shopping, from the stories I've been told with brides, too many opinions, you lose exactly what you're trying to do. So, I years ago, I had a bride and she's like, yep, I want my hair up. I've got this really beautiful detail on the neckline. Perfect. Great. And as we were doing it, the mum's like, oh, it's really up. And we're like, yeah, it's going to go up. She goes, oh no, your hair's way better down. And we're like, and then the bride's like, and it just became a disaster because by the end of it, the bride's almost in tears because the mum's like, oh, it's not going to look good up. And it's like, she's just spent a fortune on this dress and now it's going to be hidden with her hair down. So I just think come to the trial, bring all your inspo photos. And it really also lets me talk to the bride and find out what they're thinking and what their vibe again is and what they are looking for on their wedding day. And the only problem is then you get like other opinions. So I always say to brides, come just yourself. We'll do it. Hey, wear it home as well and go see mum and dad, go see your friends or whoever, go out for lunch even, like take the hair out and trial it. And we'll take lots of photos and videos of it. And I do it on their phone. I do it on mine and airdrop it to them. And then that way they can take it away and they can show their bridal party. So you're still sharing the experience with everyone just after you've kind of had the one-on-one time with me. And it's so we can also talk because the other thing I found too is I'm trying to find out details for their wedding day to set up their timeline and stuff. And then it's just miscommunication coming from the other members around. So I think if you can try and do your trials one-on-one and then go spend all the time with, your loved ones and show them what the makeup looks like and the hair and everything. And it's a little bit softer on the bride as well, I think. So.
That is such great advice. I'm curious, just one other thing on that. How long typically should they block out for something like that?
Yeah, so I say 2 to 4 months before your wedding. 4 months if you really have a set style in mind. It's after you've gotten your wedding dress. So I've even had brides that have come only a couple of weeks prior to their wedding if they're really not sure if they're going to go up or down. I think because if you do it too soon, one, if you come in to do a hair trial in, say, December and your wedding's not till like August the following year, like December's hot, August is cold.
Mm.
So, one, you're also not getting a good idea of what the hair's going to be like in the weather and stuff. But you need to have your dress because that like determines everything. So, what the neckline is like, is there detailing at the back, and if your hair's super long, is it going to hide it? So, yeah, I always say like around that 2 to 4 months is kind of the sweet spot for a trial. So you know.
I love it. Yeah.
Hmm,
And
yeah.
do you, very curiously here, do you at all get any requests from men as well to do their hair on the day?
Men, yeah, occasionally I do. Yeah, dads love to crack the joke about getting their hair and makeup done.
Yeah, it's such a dad joke. I
Every
can totally
wedding
get it.
morning, they're always like, "Yep, I'm next," and they usually got shaved heads. So I'm like, "Yep, sweet,
Mm.
we'll put some pink in it." And they always get one. They always joke about the makeup, but honesty, I've seen a lot of dads jump in the makeup chair like, "Oh, I've just got this like little mark here," and the makeup artist's like, "Yeah, sure," and it's like they joke about it, but I tell you what, they're very quick to get in that chair. So yeah.
That's adorable. I love that. It's great content too. I get the photographers and videographers are like, yeah, keep going. That's great.
Oh,
Uh,
it's usually when they're about to walk in and they're like, excellent. And they're just like on it straight away. So, no, it's good. Yeah.
Final thing, I would love to, because
Mm.
like I said at the beginning, you see such a different side of the wedding day, like such a different spectrum
Yeah.
of it compared to when I finish it all up. So
Yeah.
tell me, I'm sure you've seen some wild stuff, maybe beyond just morning grumpy, so to speak, like
Oh, yeah.
without breaching confidentialities and so forth. What's something like just something wild that you saw that you just
Oh,
can't get out of your head?
I've seen some. I was actually talking about this one incident with a makeup artist. It happened with her. I saw her last week on a wedding, and every time we get together, we're like, that happened, didn't it? And she's like, yeah, it happened. So, like, look, 99.9% of my weddings are absolutely amazing and just
Hmm.
your typical wonderful day. There's that 0.01% where craziness happens and you go, oh my God, did that actually happen? So we actually had a bride who was very unwell. She
Oh
went
no.
out the night before and got food poisoning. So she was very unwell in the morning when we got
Ooh.
there. We were pre-warned when we arrived. And her sister was a nurse and the husband to be was a doctor. So that's how they kind of had met. So anyway, mum was extremely anxious and her and the sister were fighting a lot over what they should do. But she was feeling somewhat better. We was like, just go lie down and we'll see how you feel. So eventually she got to the point where it was like, okay, she has to get hair and makeup done if she wants to go to the ceremony. And I think
Mm.
she kind of resigned herself to the fact, like, she'll go to the ceremony, she'll get some photos, see how long the reception lasts.
Mm.
And then I don't know when it escalated, but all of a sudden the paramedics walk in and the
Oh.
makeup artist and I are like, what? And like, she's in our chair and the mum had called the paramedics. So the ambulance had turned up. So the sister lost the plot. So the mum and the sister are now arguing. The paramedics are there trying to take her blood pressure and I'm trying to curl her hair at the back. And I'm just staring at the makeup artist. She's staring at me and we're like, do we keep going? Like,
Oh
do we
no.
stop? Like, I don't know what to do here. The next minute, the groom turns up because the mum's called the groom and he's now worried. So we were just like standing there. I was like, is this happening? Like, what, do we stop? Like, we didn't know what to do. So we kind of just like kept going and take little breaks. And
Yeah.
anyway, long story short, they gave her some
Mm.
injection and she was actually significantly better. But it was just, we just walked out looking at each other going, that happened, right? The ambulance
Mm.
turned up. She's like, yeah, while we were doing her hair. So it was the weirdest vibe ever. But yeah, mum and sister having this massive blow outside. It was just like, ooh.
Well, I
I
guess
don't
it
know
goes
how
back
that
to what you
turned
said
out.
before, right? It's all about
Yeah,
limiting the opinions of people. Obviously, in that context, is a little much more tougher, but
yeah,
definitely crafting the opinions around you can
yeah,
definitely help
yeah,
you if you're obviously for your
yeah,
own better interests. So,
100%. I
it's
think, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm
I
glad
was
that you
going to say, I
navigated
think
that though.
sometimes, sorry.
No,
I think
go please.
sometimes, if you say got a bridal party member that you're concerned might have very strong opinions, just have them come later in the day. You know what I mean? Like, don't have them there from 6 a.m. Like, if you think you know, your mum or one particular bride or anyone might be a bit who is maybe naturally a bit more stressy, and you know, maybe just say come a little later, and then that way they can still come and get everything done. It's just they're not like all day kind of at you and you're like trying to relax and be zen, so you're walking down the aisle in the zen mode. But yeah, sometimes I'm like, you know what, if you think someone's going to be a little bit too much on the day, just have them come right at the end, and then they can't really do any damage.
I love that. That is perfect advice, and I think it's easy enough to navigate, you know, to stagger out those kind of people, and you know, they're not missing out on the experience of the day. You're just helping to just alleviate some issues that may come along the way, and of course, as you said, it's all about the bride's feeling calm, zen, getting to that ceremony space, which is obviously extremely nerve-wracking for most people, getting, you know, to potentially be married for the very first time most often. So yeah, I love that you're so focused on that, and of course I rely on your effort, makeup artist, the photographer, videographer, the transport who were there at the beginning of the day to really set that tone, so to then give me a happy smiling bride that I can then, you know, of course uplift and take to another level on the end of the night. So Dee, it has been an absolute pleasure having you here. I have learned so much. I feel like I have the worst haircut now because of all this, but that's okay.
It looks good. It looks good.
Oh, thank you. The same I've had for 6 months. I genuinely look forward to working with you again, and I'm sure that all of your upcoming brides are very, very lucky to have you. So wish you. I know you said we're heading out we're filming this around the time of the Easter break. So I wish you a very happy holidays, and of course, a good luck for all the craziness to come.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Just As Planned TV and podcast show. We hope you enjoyed this episode and found some valuable insights and tips to help you plan your dream wedding. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button on our channel and turn on notifications to stay up to date with our latest episodes. And if today's episode has inspired you in your own wedding journey, feel free to let us know in the comments section, or simply send through any burning questions you may have to hello@justasplan.com.au. We wish you all the very best in planning your big day, and we hope your wedding goes just as planned.